So recently, President Trump has been talking about the tariff revenue, the billions and billions of dollars that are coming in from other countries. But President Trump is not done yet. He is going to continue to impose tariffs on other countries. And he's going to find ways, whether it's by hitting countries with a gold tariff, hitting countries with a tariff for doing business with Russia, or hitting countries with a tariff because they have reciprocal tariffs on us. So President Trump is doing something that is unprecedented. He's going after every single country. But by him doing so, it's bringing up the one question. Will the American people receive either a rebate check as a result of this tariff revenue, or could we see additional tax cuts, or could we see some other form of relief? Well, I want to play a clip for you. This is actually from Live Now on Fox, but look at this right here and then we're going to discuss it.
All right, when will citizens receive tax cuts in place of tariffs as promised by President Trump? Ravine, can you speak to that for us?
When will they receive tax cuts instead of tariffs or based on tariffs?
Well, let's see. This says, when will citizens receive tax cuts in place of tariffs as promised by President Trump? Could you just speak to maybe what President Trump has said in terms of tax cuts?
Yeah, he has said some things that are pretty amazing if they were to actually happen. He has floated the idea of not even having an income tax if tariff revenue continues to be high. And I believe he said it was for everyone making something under, it was either $100,000 or $200,000 would pay no tax. Now, I don't think that that is going to happen. I mean, if it does, I think the sky's the limit because Americans, his job approval rating will probably be 80% at that point. But
I want to jump in really quick. He comes on and says, okay, he's the former CEO of GMM Nonstick Coding. Anyway, the reason why I wanted to play this specific clip is because he says he doesn't think that's going to happen. He does not believe that President Trump is going to be able to get every single American that makes less than $200,000 or $250 or $150, whatever it may be. He doesn't believe that's going to go through. I think that would be incredible if it did. I don't think it goes through anytime soon. Here's the reason why. Many Republicans and Democrats alike want to see our debt get paid down first. That is what they want. Many Democrats have come out publicly and said that they believe we need to pay down our debt. But at the same time, the American people need help. How do we kind of find some common ground and find that sweet spot of providing relief, but also ensuring that the country doesn't go into a free fall because our debt just keeps on spiraling out of control? But here's the thing. Are we going to see something soon? Well, listen to this.
I think that this sort of dividend that he's declaring is a good first step towards effectuating some actual relief to Main Street with tariffs. But, we'll see what has to happen in terms of Congress actually getting rid of the income tax.
Now, we're gonna listen to a little bit more of what he has to say, but he says it's a good first step. And I've been saying this for over a year now, that there is going to be some type of relief. President Trump made it pretty clear the relief was going to come in the form of the extension of the Trump tax cuts. He did that. He provided an additional $6,000 for seniors in an enhanced deduction there. So that was great for them. But what about the rest of the people? What about people with children? Well, there's a child tax credit. It increased. Okay. That's on the table. And so right now the discussion is, who is going to need more help? Well, unfortunately, a lot of the savings, a lot of the money that's going to come back to you isn't going to come back until you file your taxes for this year. Meaning it won't come until you file taxes after January 1st. So right now there's very limited relief coming. But according to reports, it is on the table. There are proposals. There are discussions being had. The problem, though, is Democrats. Here's the issue. Republicans have to join with Democrats, or vice versa, doesn't matter. They have to provide and pass some type of bipartisan legislation. It would be difficult for Democrats to jump on board after 2026, or really in 2026, simply because of the midterm election. Let's keep listening to this, though.
A question I had for you, we saw these COVID rebate checks back when that was happening, but historically, have we seen anything like this come out of Congress in recent years or historically in terms of these rebate checks with tariffs? Because tariffs are really something that President Trump has really hit home on here, really something we haven't seen before with any other president.
Yeah, I mean, like you said.
I do want to point out that Barack Obama, former President Obama, he actually provided millions of Americans with a form of relief, with a stimulus check, if you will. And so, he did do that. That was as a result of the financial crisis. He provided, and they weren't much, okay? They honestly were not much, but they did help a little bit.
The COVID stuff was pretty unprecedented, both with Trump and Biden. We obviously had the Trump tax cuts. We had, going back to George W. Bush, we had tax cuts. But the key thing about this, and this is so important, deficit neutral. I mean, if there's something that people on both sides of this country believe, it is that we have way too much debt and no one on either side has done anything to fix it. And the fact that we can actually have dollars going to the hardworking Americans who deserve it most, and that money came from all of these other huge countries that want to sell to us the biggest, most dynamic economy in the world, that is historic.
I do want to come out and point out one thing, though. He says that providing a rebate to the hardworking Americans in this country, that is the key. And I talked to a friend of mine, and without revealing too much information, because I don't know what's out there, talked to a friend of mine. He was saying that there are discussions, and again, I don't know how far the discussions go. There's no proposal yet, but there are discussions amongst lawmakers, specifically Republicans. He didn't mention anything about any Democrats, but he did say that there's discussions being had that could we provide a greater incentive, so like additional cuts, because we're already doing it for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. That's great. That's going to help those tip workers, a lot of the blue collar work. We're going to help out a lot of people here. But what he said was, is there a incentive that we can find to get more people back to work, get them working longer work weeks, not 34.5 hours or whatever it is right now. Can we get them in working 40 hours a week? Everybody. Getting them in working 40 hours a week. This is only going to provide more stability to the economy. It's going to provide more growth as well. Unemployment's going to go down. Okay, spending's going to increase. Right? We know that. That's going to bring in more tariff revenue. But if more people are working and we're bringing in more tariff revenue, the U.S. economy is going to just explode. We're going to be doing great. But he said this. What incentive can we give the American people to work longer hours? Can we reduce their tax rate if they worked X amount of hours per year? If they were not considered a part-time employee? Could we give them an additional benefit? Could we give them some type of relief at the end of the year? Some type of deduction or rebate, some tax credit, because they met a certain requirement by working X amount of hours per year. They did these certain tasks. They had a child. They bought a house. They started a business, whatever it may be. Could we provide an incentive to those groups? That's what he was asking. It'll be interesting to see. All I can tell you right now is there's a lot of people wanting to know, when is the next relief coming? And I've said this from the beginning. I don't think this is going to be a stimulus check. Okay? I just don't think it will be. I want to play this last piece for you. Listen to this.
All right, one of my last questions for you here is Senator Josh Hawley. He's the one that proposed this bill. So again, this is still a proposal. We don't know if this is going to happen, but what are your thoughts? Do you think Americans are going to be getting some rebate checks?
It depends on if it passes. And I think that it's going to be how much can Hawley influence the people on the other side. And I can maybe just give you a little bit of my political story. I was a 20-year Democrat. I voted for every Democratic president, including Joe Biden. And after 20 years in 2024, I voted for President Trump. And the reason is, when I saw what Biden did on the border, with wokeism, with decriminalizing crime, and most importantly, the socialism that I see coming out of the Democratic Party, I find it unbelievable. And there's so many centrists like me who feel like we did not leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left us.
Okay. So he kind of sidestepped that question. He answers it towards the end. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch that. But she asked, will Senator Josh Hawley's bill pass? Or what's it going to look like? He said, well, it depends on if it passes, obviously. But he said from his side, he is a centrist. He used to be he's a 20-year Democrat, always voted for Democratic presidents, and he decided to vote for President Trump as a result of what President Joe Biden did over the past 4 years. Now, what happened is many Democrats feel the exact same way. They do not believe in what Democrats were doing. They don't believe in what was done over the past 4 years. But at the same time, they have some, they don't fully believe in President Donald Trump. And I completely understand that. But at the same time, President Donald Trump has done more for the United States than what President Joe Biden did in this short amount of time. So many Democrats are looking at what President Donald Trump is doing right now and considering whether or not they should jump on board with him. Because again, at the end of the day, we are one country. We are not groups. We are one country. And every single person is going to have the same laws. Okay? So with that said, are we going to see a tariff rebate check anytime soon? The answer as of right now is no. But could we see some additional relief from specific cities or counties or states? The answer there is yes. But if you didn't get a chance to watch my video that I did earlier today, I talked about how many cities are struggling and they are in a budget crisis because what they've passed and what the different laws and provisions and all the legislation they have done over the past several years is putting them in a bind today because the federal government is not backing all these different changes. They're not sending hundreds of $billions to every single state like we once did, simply because we are trying to get our financial future in order first. So, as we get more information on this as to whether or not we are going to get some form of rebate check, stimulus, tax credit, or cut, I promise I'll bring you all the latest news and updates as soon as we get them. As of today, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.